Hey guys, Martin here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so as we wait for the countdown to the Heroes celebration to come to an end, one of the things that we talked about on last night's episode of the podcast was what is going to be coming next on Global after Heroes. So I already put out a video a couple of days ago talking about Omega Shenron. Make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it. I'm kind of speculating where he's going to fit into the schedule now that they've moved Goku to the beginning of November. And this one basically has to do with, as you'll be able to tell by the title and the thumbnail, I'm sure, who is going to be the next Dokkan Fest that is going to release on Global. A lot of people might instantly assume like, oh, well, you know, it's going to be Trunks, obviously. But Global has a habit of changing things around when it comes to the schedule. And with one big unit still missing from our recent release schedule, and that is, of course, the return of Physical God Goku, I think there are potentially some different options that we could see. So one of the things that I wanted to show here is, obviously, this is the timeline for last year. So at the beginning of November, this is where we got the resurrection of F Blues. I've shown this in previous videos before. Obviously, we got their celebration with their Easy A's. We had a world tournament, and then that led into Heroes. This is basically where we are now, except this release was, of course, the Super Saiyan 4 Goku. We've just got the Beerus EZA yesterday, so we're about a day behind on this sort of time schedule, right? We got Beerus's EZA, we got a new stage of Super Battle Road, we got a new Infinite Dragon Ball History, so we're getting some quest stages on the 15th, so I think a World Tournament will fit in here quite nicely. I still don't think they're going to fit in Omega. I think they'll do a filler LR banner like last year. But then that leads us into Heroes, and as we got to the very end of the month, that is when they released the Tanabata LR. So this is where we originally assumed Super Saiyan 4 Goku would release this year on the 28th of November. Now, I brought up the timeline for 2021 because this was the last year before now where the Tanabata LR came out at the beginning of November. So this is the Tech Gogeta releasing on the 4th of November. This is more in line with what has happened this year with the release of the Super Saiyan 4 Goku. And then you can see as we get down here, right, same sort of thing again. We got some Easy A's, we got a new Super Battle Road stage, and this was between the 11th and the 18th. And then Heroes was on the 25th. So Heroes is obviously a few days earlier this year. And then that saw us all the way through to the end of the month. And there was no Dokkan Fest released at the end of November. Now, regardless, if we are following this sort of schedule again, we obviously get to the beginning of December 2021. And on the 3rd, this is when they released the next Dokkan Fest, which was the Tech Kale and Caulifla. Whereas obviously based on last year's schedule, the newest unit dropped right at the end of November on the 28th. And then if we move into December, that is when we got a Part 2 Carnival LR banner where they released the Fusion Zamasu. So obviously with Omega's release still being up in the air, we don't really know what's going on when he's going to come out. Are they going to drop him at the end of November after Heroes? Are they going to drop him in this same time slot as Zamasu and he's just going to be like the December double rates carnival banner? Because this banner in December last year was a double rates carnival banner with carnival coins, even though there were no featured like carnival exclusive LRs, like no return of Birdku or Melcool or anything like that. But it was carnival coins, it was double rates, so Omega Shenron could easily release in this time slot still. But that still leaves us with, even though there was nothing at the very beginning of December, that obviously still leaves us with this slot at the end of November, or if they are more so following the time schedule from 2021, then obviously that gives us this time slot at the beginning of December. So, going back to our options, the main one that, of course, people are expecting to be coming next, and we thought he was potentially coming before Goku, is going to be the Tech Super Trunks. So Super Trunks is an interesting unit. He's one of those units very divisive in the community. His Super Trunks form can be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say underrated, but that's not the right word at all. Is definitely not appreciated. I don't know what I'm completely like mind stumped on the word I'm looking for here. His base form, or his Super Saiyan form, can definitely be very hit or miss, right? He has a chance to guard, and that chance to guard is then only when he has 3 or more android allies on the team. So he is not exactly a top tier defensive unit in all scenarios. Underwhelming was the word I was looking for. There you go. So you have, you build your team, you have Android / Cell Saga allies on the team with him, and then he just doesn't guard anyway because it's only a high chance, and then he can die to some of these tougher bosses, especially in the new meta from the Worldwide Celebration where a lot of the bosses are int. But the thing about this guy is if you can make it through those turns where he is in his Super Saiyan form, he's able to transform on turn 5. After performing 5 or more attacks in battle or starting from turn 5. He has an active skill that can be used on turn 3 as long as you have 60% or more HP, which is in itself an attack, so that counts towards his transformation condition. So if you can get this as quickly as possible, he has built-in additional attacks as well. Once you transform into Super Trunks is then when he becomes really, really good. So he has guaranteed guard for 3 turns. He has a huge amount of stats. He gets a guaranteed crit on his super. He can just be very, very good, right? So Super Trunks is an interesting unit. And, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on him, trying him out, seeing if we can make him work in some different builds. From the Worldwide Celebration, we did get some buffs to Android / Cell Saga with like new Trunks EZAs. We obviously got the LR Future Gohan, who's going to be on that team. So very, very nice buff for those teams. But Trunks himself is certainly an interesting one. And his banner, as you can see here, was the first return of the Android 17s from GT that fused into Super 17. And then his banner also had Majin Vegeta, Super Vegeta, AGL Trunks, and the AGL Gohan. Now, AGL Trunks and Majin Vegeta were put onto the a recent banner. It was the Halloween banner, right? So a lot of people speculated that Trunks would be next and that these units would be changed, but obviously he didn't come next. So this banner is kind of interesting. It doesn't have a huge amount of value. Like if you're somebody already on the fence about Trunks, Majin Vegeta can still be good, but like everyone else is just kind of outdated. Like the 17s are already outdated and they came out this year because just of their conditions, the teams that they're on, like they want to be fighting super class enemies. And this pains me as a Super 17 fan, but like I'm just really not like a fan of this unit at all. There are situations where you can make them work, but you just have to jump through so many hoops to get them to do even what other like top tier super class units just do for free, which is very disappointing. And it's more so an indictment of how Dokkan treats extreme units. I don't want to just rag on these guys because, there are aspects of their design I like, but they just got screwed over like so many extreme units this year. So Trunks' banner doesn't hold a huge amount of value for a lot of people. And the other option that we are looking at, and kind of the point of this video, is the androids that came out recently on Global. They released at the beginning of October. These guys are an interesting unit that are a great buff for Reps of Universe 7 base team, like, Blue Kaioken Goku needing those partners in order for him to go absolutely crazy. These guys are really, really good support units that provide tons of support, as well as they give off-rotation support as well, don't they? So these guys can be incredibly good. And the thing about them is their banner, bearing in mind, again, they released at the beginning of October, their banner on JP was actually the first return of God Goku. And Global, as we sit here now at time of recording on the 11th of November, over a month later, have still not had God Goku return on Global, which is interesting because Majin Vegeta returned for the first time in October last year for our Halloween banner, and that was actually before JP. So the Saiyan Day unit returned on Global. I think it was only by about 4 to 5 days, something like that. But the Saiyan Day unit actually returned on Global earlier than it returned on JP. But now here we are this year, and we're over a month later from the Androids banner, and God Goku still has not returned. So there are a couple of possible theories, and shout out to anyone who was at the Slot 1 Super podcast last night. I did talk about it a little bit on the episode, but I wanted to make this video to go over the main points here just to get it out to more people. But God Goku, we obviously need him to return sooner rather than later. I know there's a bunch of people that still don't have him, a bunch of people that want to get him. He's a really good unit still. He's a really versatile leader because he leads Pure Saiyans or Hybrid Saiyans, and he's on a ton of categories. So for things like Easy A's, you can make tons of teams using his leader skill. He's just an all-round very good unit. But he obviously still has not come back on Global. So there are there's 3 options, I guess, and we'll start with the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is they don't change any of these banners. Trunks comes out first, either at the very end of November or the very beginning of December. His banner stays exactly the way it is, and then we don't end up getting God Goku Return until the Android banner comes out sometime in January, which means that God Goku would be returning like 2 months before Saiyan Day, when obviously he'll just return on that banner anyway, because as is always the format, when the Saiyan Day banner comes out in March, one of the featured units is always the previous year's Saiyan Day unit. So that would be very unfortunate for Global. That would be like 10 months of his return, basically another worldwide celebration unit incident, which we already do not like. One of the big downsides of the way the Global schedule is structured. So that's probably the worst case scenario. Now we have the one that I think is probably the most likely, which is at the end of November or beginning of December, we get Super Trunks. However, they change one of the units on his banner to be God Goku, because we saw with Turles's banner, they're not worried about having 2 units return for the first time. His banner saw the return of Bardock and Yamcha on the same banner. So on this banner, you know, Majin Vegeta, he just returned on a banner. He's going to be on the Saiyan Day banner in March anyway, guaranteed. So bump him off, put God Goku on there. Straight away, that adds a huge amount of value to this banner, because we've got the new Dokkan Fest, Trunks, which, you know, like I said, some people are on the fence about him, but some people will want to try him out. The 17's returning. I mean, I only got the 1 copy in my original summons and then just stopped summoning, because I already knew they weren't a unit that I wanted to go crazy chasing for. But I would like to get some extra dupes and like try them out again, maybe on some of the newer team builds, because having any unit at 55%, like, let alone a TUR that's not particularly great, is a bit underwhelming, right? So I'd be happy to get some extra copies of him, and then God Goku on the banner as well, right? And then Super Vegeta, Trunks, and the AGL Kid Gohan, they're just kind of there, right, to be the extra SSRs. But a banner that had Trunks, God Goku, and the 17s on it would be pretty decent. So I think that's possibly the best case scenario. Or the theory that I was entertaining on the podcast last night is, what if at the end of November / beginning of December, instead of getting Super Trunks, we get the androids and we get this banner? Because they wouldn't have to change any of the banners, right? This banner would come out, it would have the androids on it, it would have Kale, it would have God Goku. It would be Kale's first return, and it does mean she would return before the androids, but I mean, when it comes to these units, they barely cared about them when they released, right? They didn't give them good Part 2 LRs. They didn't give them, like, really great side banner units that buff them. I mean, I guess the 17s did have Mew and Jiro, who were kind of designed for them, but they're just not very good. Kale got a Frost, and then her Part 2 LR was Super Boo. So they clearly didn't care about these units when they came out. I'm sure they really don't care that much about which order they come back in. So Kale and God Goku would be on here, and then obviously in January we would get the Trunks banner, and this means in either of these last 2 scenarios, God Goku is returning at the end of the year. Now, one of the reasons why I think this could happen is they've changed things around in the past before, right? Like if we go back to the timeline from 2022, we had the Resurrection of F Blues releasing in November, and I believe it was October we saw the release of Tech Pan. On JP, the Resurrection of F Blues came out first, and then Tech Pan came out afterwards. So for some reason last year, they just decided to switch the order of Pan and the Resurrection of F Blues. Not really sure why, but that is just something that they did. So it's not like Global hasn't swapped the order of these things around in the past before. And one of the reasons why they could do this, I mean, they're twofold, right? One of them is God Goku comes back sooner without them having to change the banners around too much, which we know isn't a huge issue for them to do, but not having to change them is even less effort, so potentially they'll go with that. But the other one is, of course, leading into the speculation about the 9th anniversary being synced on both Global and JP. Now, we know that the full sync for both the games having the full schedule completely lined up is probably not going to have any chance of being done by the 9th anniversary. However, the games don't have to be fully synced in order to have the anniversary at the same time, right? We have Worldwide at the same time, we have Saiyan Day at the same time, we're probably going to get New Year's at the same time again this year, Golden Week is at the same time, and like, that doesn't, it doesn't matter, right? The rest of the game's not synced. However, the units that come out obviously can be affected. Like, a good example is 23rd World Tournament Goku from Golden Week. On JP, the 8th anniversary had already been and gone, so the GT duo were already a viable option for his team, thus making it very easy to get his passive where another ally revives, whereas Global didn't have them yet, so we had to use Birdku, who was not as reliable when it comes to reviving, and so a lot of people's impressions of World Tournament Goku were affected by that scenario. Now, when it comes to this year with the anniversary, or the upcoming anniversary, the 9th anniversary, it could be anything, right? It could be Gogeta and Vegito again. It could be Beast Gohan, maybe. It could be, you know, it could be anything. But one of the things I've heard a lot of people talking about is the potential for another Universe Survival Saga or Tournament of Power kind of themed thing, because we know that the 6-year LRs, UI Goku and Blue Evolution Vegeta, are going to get their Easy A's during the 9th anniversary based on the pattern of the last previous anniversaries. So if they were to do that again, and we were to get new representatives of Universe 7 units, like a new UI Goku, maybe one that transforms from UI Sign into the UI white-haired form, maybe a Vegeta that's transforming from Blue into Blue Evolution, something like that, right, to just make it a bit different from the previous headliners. If we did that at the same time for both versions, JP would then obviously have the benefit of having the androids already out. Whereas Global, we don't yet have them, and we're not sure when that release would be, right? Because the anniversary starts at the end of January. Now, obviously, they could bring out Trunks at the beginning of December, bring out the androids right at the beginning of January, and then the anniversaries being synced wouldn't matter. But if they bring these guys out nice and early, we get to have the androids ready for if the anniversary is going to be synced. So there's a couple of different ways they can do this. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section is the most likely. Like I said, I think out of the 3 possibilities, the most likely is that they put, well, I say actually the most likely, the best case scenario is they put God Goku on this banner. This banner comes out at the end of November or the very beginning of December, and God Goku is there instead of Majin Vegeta. Now, honestly, they could just bring this banner out as is, and then this banner comes out maybe in January, and then God Goku unfortunately took 10 months to come back. Hopefully that isn't going to be the case. I would much rather see either this banner come out first, or this banner come out with God Goku on it. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Will Trunks be next? Will the androids be next? At this point, we can't really ever say for sure. Like, I was fairly confident Trunks would come out before Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and we all saw what happened with that. So who knows? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Are you excited for Trunks? Are you excited for the androids? What are your thoughts about all of this? Let me know down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been The Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.